Hi everyone. I hope you got a great lunch. After lunch, we go further with on automotive design systems. We're going to talk about 40 minutes more or less, and if you have some questions afterwards, or you can visit us in the BMW booth, and we can have more discussions about it. Well, it's me, Mario. I'm from Chile, but I have some German, Italian, French, and also espresso in blood, as you can see. I'm a huge family guy. I have 6 kids, and I love enjoying family. Live near the mountains. I love mountains. I love it in Chile, and the Alps are almost as good as the Andes. Of course, I love cars. I love BMWs. And I love learning new stuff, so that's why I'm also here. Well, from the background, I'm not a developer, I have to say. I've been doing UX design for the last 12 years, more or less. Doing design systems, most of those at that time. I was 2 years in a combined role as a PO and UX design, which is quite cool. It makes me kind of a dictator, so I decide what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. I can only recommend that combination. I have been within 6 generations of cars in BMW and also delivered for 6 brands. And giving back to...
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a software developer at BMW. I've been first exposed with actually really old school computers to computer science, kind of, like Spectrum ZX81, Commodore Amiga, Commodore 64. I actually worked on the software development of the first generation that we did in-house at BMW, based then on, QNX, I think it was, and C++. Did some X-Tour to California, where I spent 5 years, worked on other projects like motorcycle helmets, virtual reality in the car, and right now I'm working on our current next generation user interface system, which is based on the Android open source project. And I strongly believe in collaboration between the different disciplines, visual design, interaction design, and software development. Yeah, so that's 21 years in software development, 18 years in automotive UI, 6 years in Android, also 6 generations and 6 brands of stuff.
So but why design systems? So it's, I need to say, so we have kind of an enabler syndrome, it's kind of a sickness or something like that. So we love feeling the pain in order that our customers, our friends, our colleagues don't feel that pain and make life for them easier. And this is what we have in common. And that's why we are here, in order to tell you about our experiences from the last 10 years or more in his case. So this is going to be our road trip, so more or less a little bit introduction on automotive UX, how it has developed, some challenges on that, and then our key learnings from the past years. Ready? Let's go. So, introduction in automotive UX. Look at that light. I'll make you, okay, I'm not going to beam you out, but try to forget everything that you know about UX and about development, maybe in general, I would say. So our use cases are completely different. So everybody developing apps or developing other thing cool, you just want to catch attention. You want the people to stay in the app, to press this call to action button and be successful and sell a lot of stuff, or I don't know, come back to the app again and again. This is not what we are supposed to do. So you're so successful that you're making our life very difficult, because phones are really distracting in day by day. As we can see here, so the primary task of these people is just walking. Secondary task is okay, we'll look some things on the phone. And it's funny, but it can also be super dangerous. I really love that one. So, more dramatic. So imagine this is how our customers see our car. So of course, a really cool piece of PS and KV and whatever, but also they see us as bringing their ecosystem into the car. This is an ideal picture of our customers. And what do we need to do with our system is try to avoid these kind of things. So if we're not providing enough infotainment, if we're not providing the communication in a good way, or at all, people are going to grab their phones and do exactly the same things. And the pictures might not be that funny then at the end. So just to remember, for example, if a normal glance at a phone takes about 3 seconds, this means by 50 km/h, this 40 meters. At the Autobahn are 100 meters. At the speed that we drove, maybe 1 kilometer. Okay, but it's quite difficult. So the first takeaway from our part, so best interaction is no interaction. So we need to bring the people, our customers, our users, all the information they need at a glance so that they don't get in mind to interact. But how everything developed, so we started pretty lean, I would say. This is one of the first their first cockpit from BMW. You have the steering wheel for your primary tasks, driving, some indications here in the middle, so for secondary tasks, so checking speed, checking oil, checking whatever was checked on that time. There's no distraction, actually. But then, at more or less the same time, well, this picture is a bit newer than that, but Ford introduced the first radio in the car, so they actually managed to integrate a radio in the car, and this was the beginning of a new era, so to say. Actually, also, these are the first integration of radio buttons in the system. I don't know if you know that. It's come from radios and not because they're radial. It's because of that logic. Yeah, and it keeps development. So for radio, we have a broadcast, so you don't have any control about what is the infotainment about. But then we started integrating cassettes. This means I bring my world, my music into the car and plug it and play it. And this is kind of raising the bar a little bit. And oops, sorry. And then, so in the 90s, BMW was the first way integrating the like kind of what we understand today as a whole infotainment system. So we have a phone in the middle, in the center stack here. So like this looks like a phone. It acts like a phone. We have a navigation in the middle. So here's a very tiny navigation, and also the radio system. But this looks like quite messy for a premium car. But it was about technology, so we just push it. A couple of years after, so in the 20s, we try to integrate everything, and we integrate everything into one system operated with our iDrive controller, this kind of rotatory thing in that you can move your cursor. And what we saw before did it in a digital way, so it was like a mess, so to say. So every single island of this infotainment system, communication worked in a very different way as infotainment, as navigation. Everybody was trying to achieve their own optimum, but not global optimum. A couple of years later, we got very, let's say, clear feedback how the system was working, and we need to rework the whole stuff. And this is more or less the first time that we build a design system, so a consistent way of interaction, a consistent way of reusing elements and components and atoms and all this kind of elements. And we do it in a very streamlined way in order that once you interact, for example, with entertainment, you know exactly how media, how phone, and how the other applications are going to be. Yeah, a couple of years later, we started introducing like more touch points, so it is getting difficult to how to say, to do it in a good way. So we have a phone, we have a display key, a phone, a tablet, and the infotainment system in the middle, and everything needs to follow the same language, so it's kind of difficult. And this is what we try to achieve. So from the last generation starting on, we really combined everything into one design language and also with design patterns. And again, we are, having absolute control about it. So I'm giving to Michael. He's going to talk about challenges.
Yeah, there's some challenges in automotive, especially when we're moving from a monolithic system like we did in the past to that widespread development cycle. And basically, it's not just one app that we're building. No, we're actually creating a design and creating multiple apps for a complete system. Now, if you look at our current generation, and that's screenshots of the AOSP-based system, basically we have stuff like a launcher, we have weather apps, we have mode switches, we have media apps, we have obviously vehicle settings in all varied things, and connectivity and so on. So that means one of the big challenges is actually this consistency versus autonomy thing. So we have many apps, we have many teams developing these apps, but we want to keep the look and feel and also the interaction very consistent between all of these different apps. What do I mean with that? It's basically, I mean, if you look at what does the entertainment app needs, it first needs to be engaging, right? You want to be entertained and you want to browse efficiently through your music collection. For navigation, everything is very map-centric, but I mean, there's also the destination input use case and finding like points of interest. For settings, it's very specific, very comprehensive, and discoverability of the settings is an issue. And at the same time, you know, like we want to have a unified voice in our brand representation, in our overall car design. We want to have consistent, seamless interaction across all of these different applications, and at the same time also cohesive aesthetics, because after all, our cars live in the digital world as well as in the real world, also through our design. Just looking at the numbers, I mean, that's kind of like 40 plus teams developing apps right now in our current generation, in over 100 repos across 8 sites around the globe. We have 4 brands right now and over 10 themes for these applications. And talking about multi-brand, I mean, these are some of the brands that we're right now supporting. And one of the challenges here is to have a different look and kind of feel for all of these different brands, right? Mini has a completely different character than BMW, and that means different look, maybe a modified navigation through the app, but at the same time you want to reuse the code, use the same app, have the same information architecture, and offer the same functionality. And the next challenge actually is multi-generation, right? We're not talking about, ideally we're not talking about building it every time again and again and again and again like we did in the past, but actually we're moving through our generations and want to take as much code as possible from one generation to the next generation. While at the same time, you know, like typically with each launch, what we call an OS, operating system version, that usually goes hand in hand with a major visual language change, as well as with potential changes in the interaction paradigm, new displays, new interaction methods, and whatnot. So what do we need to do to make it work so that we don't have to repeat the same work over and over again? Well, and the solution is we need something like a design system as SAP, and that means also not only on paper, not only, but a working design system that we can actually ship to our development teams. And I'm going to look into that, what we have here and how we structured it a little bit. So we're pretty much following an atomic design approach. That means like the atomic design approach is like atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and we had a small add-on of services. What do I mean with that? I mean, atoms is basically the small little building blocks that we're basing everything upon, and then we're kind of like developing more and more complex composed structures out of this. For example, atoms, Nowadays, probably you would say tokens could be colors, like a semantically defined set of colors, something like color background, color on background, that actually creates maintainable themes that have the same semantic meaning through all of our themes and can help in establishing a common design language. Ideally, we export them directly from our Figma design tool. Next thing is, for example, dimensions, so that we actually have these little dimensions like that lead to a consistent spacing throughout all of our components, and also allow, like, when there's a need for custom elements to be implemented in an app, which are application specific, to still follow the same dimension hierarchy. Next thing, obviously icons, set of over 1,000 icons, themed per brand that gets exchanged. Not so exciting. More or less textiles, you probably know them, but we're very heavily using textiles and styles for components to make sure that there's no hard-coded values nowhere in the system, so that actually otherwise the theming would not work. Our molecules are kind of like, well, that's kind of like the bread and butter of the UI library, how we call it. Basically, it's all of our interaction elements, list elements, cards, buttons, sliders, you know, like all of these things. Some of them very generic and some of them very specific to our design. We have heavy usage of shadows and gradients and reflections and stuff like that. But finally, all of these elements are built using the atoms that we described earlier. Then we aggregate further into stuff like organisms, for example, a function bar that allows the usage to, you know, like you have one component where you can stuff a couple of functions in there, which actually get rendered differently depending on brand or theme. And then the next level that we have is kind of like these, no, that's the wrong templates. The templates actually, which, for example, we have a standard activity which actually creates the basic Chrome for an activity with a selection on the left side. And then we have a standard content fragment, for example, which ensures, you know, like, okay, you have a list on the left side and some additional data on the right side, and, you know, like, and then you can start putting in your recycler views or whatever you want to do that. So a design system as a product is not just the design library or the design system defined in Figma, but actually we are basically shipping an Android archive, an AR of the UI library or a set of these actually to all of our application teams, together with documentation and a style guide. And obviously there's also the need for additional support processes as well. As you know, we learned that actually this is not just a thing that you throw over the fence.
So, and then we come to the next takeaway, never stop iterating. This has several facets, for example, or aspects. Yeah, so at BMW, we don't only build like pretty cool cars as the i4 at the booth, visit our booth. We also maybe did one of the biggest handmade waterfall ever done in history with falling time of 2 to 3 years. So the UX concept was done, then we hand over to development, and then after 3 years you see, oh, the software is there, and then you can start testing. So yeah, we moved from that to Agile. This was also very beginning. Yeah, this is one of the cool things, being so long in the company, you can really start iterating on everything, also on processes. Also, the way we distribute the UI lib changed a little bit. So we started with a very centralized approach where we just distribute, and that's it, take it. When we went also for a contribution model, everything has its pros and cons, so there's no right way of doing it, or maybe you can do it both ways in the right way. But yeah, so the idea is not being a bottleneck and try to get all the teams engaged in this, also in the development of the UI lib. We have been iterating also a lot in our technology stack. When I started at BMW, we were doing UX in PowerPoint, as is there on the it's your left, my left, everybody's left hand. Went via Photoshop to Sketch to Figma, now using tokens, so it has been a lot of development there. Also from the developer side, so we started in Linux. We're moving into AOSP. I'm not allowed to say Android, right? AOSP. Using Compose and a lot of hundreds of new cool stuff. Do you want to see how this design system looked like in PowerPoint? It looked like this. This is more or less one of the official slide that we gave to development in order to make things done, and also to the other applications to make their concepts. So this has the rotatory thing. We have per every single slide the cursor in a different position. It has the right text size, but some colleagues tend to, oh, the text size doesn't match. I just decrease a little bit the font size, and then the text will match. Yeah, those were times. You did a good job. Yeah, well, the design system is also a team sport. And this is how we work actually together in BMW. So we're sitting in a project area where developers, UX designers, UI designers, and also UX researchers are sitting everybody together and fighting for the best thing. Well, this doesn't look like fun. More or less, it looks like this when we are working together. So it's everything synchronized, I would say. Yeah. But also, we're quite inclusive. So the idea is also that developers are not just developers, so they're really part of the team. They need to understand the product. They need also to understand the user needs and pains. So that's why, for example, the user research live streams, we watch everybody together. So it feels really like watching a football game, but much more engaging because it's your product. And this is how I remember how we were, like, you know, celebrating when someone really hit that button that we wanted to be hidden. Yeah, we're also the team for the team, so the design system team plays a central role in the development. We have a lot of other teams where we choose animals for our team things, team names, so we are Team Rabbit, and all of these guys want something for us, so from us. So but we really need to understand how they develop. As Michael was saying, so we have a lot of development happening around the globe, so we really need to understand the need of every single team and every single discipline in order to provide the best possible experience during the development. This means, for example, we have different experts levels from novice in automotive and novice in Android, crossed, and also like super ninjas, where are expert in everything, expert in automotive, are also expert in Android development. Also, we like to understand the pain in a very early phase. So we have, like dog feeding, we have an application which is built from the UI lib so that we can test not only like testing if everything is working, but also how it feels using our UI lib. And this is kind of a central thing. So it really needs to be very easy for you to use to everyone. And if not, we need to keep iterating on that. The next takeaway to this design system, we said is a product. I would need to correct that this is not a product, it's your product. So there is no blueprint how a design system or how distributing a design system looks like. This depends on your company, on your how many people, how much time, everything. It depends on that. So we also analyzed, okay, what are the pains, what are the maturity steps of using a UI lib, from awareness, oh, the developer didn't know that there's a design system out there, from joining the community and start using it, getting support because some things are not so streamlined, until the kind of the very high level start contributing into the UI lib. Yeah, and this is more or less, so what are the touch points? We have a lot of things that we have established during the time, so from UI, UX practice, developer practice, we have a developer portal, we do also internal summits in order to spread knowledge in a very good way. We're a lot of people, so we try to get everyone together once a year in order to make this kind of changing happening, onboarding programs, hackathons, and a lot of things going on in order to get these skills and get things right. Yeah, and last but not least, from our takeaway, so never miss a chance. So this is also one of the cool things, I would say, being so long in the company, so that you have always the chance to push for new processes, to start working in a different way, using new tools. So out there you have the chance to change things. I also changed from UX to PO, so it's kind of, yeah, let's keep like open mind and use every chance you have to change for best, I would say. Yeah, this is more or less we're at the end of our presentation. So taking our 7 takeaways from the last 10 years. Yeah, and if you have any questions, go ahead. If not, visit us at our booth again. We can grab a coffee and then discuss a lot of details and see the product there and have cool discussions. Thanks.